Hey story seekers, welcome back to Seeking Stories. We are currently working through The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and doing a short little video on every chapter. And this video really will be a short little chapter. It's one of the shorter bits in The Fellowship of the Ring, and one where not a lot of major events happen. This is called Farewell to Lorien. We had the major events, if you could call them that, because not a lot happens in Lothlorien. It's really a place to rest. And of course, you had Frodo's interaction with Galadriel, the Mirror of Galadriel, in the previous chapter. But this is where they leave Lorien. They receive gifts. Keep those gifts in mind because they do play minor roles in the coming books. So that's important. You should particularly remember the brooch that is on Pippin's, the cloak he gets from Lothlorien, the rope that Sam gets, and the little box that he gets as well. And that light, that phial of Galadriel that he is given. So those things in particular do become very important in the story later on, although all the gifts of Galadriel have meaning to them. And here we have the Fellowship gifted with boats to go down the river. This is important for Aragorn because at some point he's going to have to make a choice whether to go to the east with Frodo to go to Mordor and help destroy the ring, or is he going to stay on the western banks of the Anduin River and go with Boromir to Minas Tirith and help in the defense of the city. And there are not a lot of great places to cross the great river. So basically the boats will give them a delay from having to make a choice for as far as they can go. And there is going to be a waterfall several days down the road, and that's eventually where they're going to have to make their choices. Do they go to the east or to the west? So Aragorn is very, very pleased with the delaying of that choice. Because he knows now that the ultimate decisions outside of Frodo for the company really lay on him. And that weighs on him greatly because he feels like he has not made a lot of great choices at this point. So he's very thankful to Celeborn that choice is delayed for a little bit. And I think that can relate to a lot of us. Like, I know in my life there's been a lot of times when there's a big choice I have to make, and having a little bit of time to think about it, well, kind of stresses me out sometimes. I'm also thankful for having more time to think and pray about these things. So Aragorn, as a leader, he is thankful he has more time to deeply consider his actions. Boromir is a character here, becomes a little bit pronounced in his attitude and what he wants to happen. But if you wish to destroy the armed might of the Dark Lord, then it is folly to go without force into his domain, and folly to throw away. He paused suddenly, as if he had become aware that he was speaking his thoughts aloud. It would be folly to throw away lives, I mean. It is a choice between defending a strong place and walking openly into the arms of death. At least, that is how I see it. It's telling, of course, of Boromir there. Obviously, he's not just talking about throwing away lives. He knows that the ring could be put to use to save his people, and it probably could. But he doesn't quite see the danger that whoever uses the ring, even for good intentions, even for good, ultimately will turn to evil, because that is what the ring is. So just keep that line of Boromir in mind as you're reading, because he's starting to say things that Aragorn wouldn't necessarily agree with, and Frodo wouldn't necessarily agree with. And, conflict is bound to arise from this at some point. In the last video, we also talked about how the elves are going to be passing kind of into twilight no matter what happens. And we have these kind of few sad quotes of Galadriel. She seemed no longer perilous or terrible, nor filled with hidden power. Already she seemed to him, as by men of later days elves still at times are seen, present and yet remote, a living vision of that which has already been far left behind by the flowing streams of time. For our spring and our summer are gone by, and they will never be seen on earth again, save in memory. As they passed her, they turned, and to their eyes watched her slowly floating away from them. For so it seemed to them, Lorien was slipping backward, like a bright ship masted with enchanted trees, sailing on to forgotten shores, while they sat helpless upon the margin of the gray and leafless world. It's so hard to read those bits knowing that the elves are passing away. No matter what happens, the power of Galadriel already seems to be fading, and whether that is truly happening at this point, or it is just a vision of what's to come, or just the Fellowship's perspective of it, it is foreshadowing of what is to come one way or another. It's so sad that they know that the time is coming where either the ring will be destroyed or Sauron will prevail. One of those things has to happen soon because time is running out. And knowing that they are in there with their winter now in Lothlorien, and they've seen the last spring and summer, and that will never come again. Just imagine that. Imagine if you live in a part of the country, where you have a season that you love, and knowing that when the world comes around again, is never going to be quite like that again. You'll lose part of that. And that's a tiny fraction of what the elves are dealing with in their sadness-wise, because their seasons are just so rich and powerful, and there's so much, quote, elf magic to them, and they're losing all of that. So again, on another quite somber note, let me know what your thoughts are, especially on the technique that Tolkien uses where he builds in time for his characters to stop and rest and think and reflect. Do you think this works? Do you think it doesn't work? It's very different than a lot of modern day fantasy, and I want to hear your thoughts. We'll see you tomorrow as we start to get very close to the end of Fellowship of the Ring.